Honestly, this could be paid content. This is the kind of stuff I share with clients. Hey dancers, welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. My name is Kirsten. I am a high performance mindset coach for dancers, which if you don't know about what that is, which a lot of people don't, basically what that means is I coach dancers individually and I speak to groups to help them overcome things like, the common mental struggles a lot of us experience, like self-doubt, performance anxiety, low self-confidence, things like that, so that dancers like you have the tools to feel confident, to perform their personal best, and to have mental well-being throughout the journey. That's what I'm all about. And a huge part, why I even go into that, isn't just to introduce who I am and what I'm doing here, but also to segue into our topic for today, which is all about emotional health. I really want to emphasize how important this is, and I want to make this subject, which can seem vague, I want to make it really practical for you today. Why does emotional health matter? What does it look like? What does it look like when we don't have emotional health? And how can we take some practical, simple steps to start building up that healthy relationship with our emotions so you can thrive? I want to give you the tools to thrive. This is going to be a value-packed video. I'm going to try to be as concise and practical as possible. Honestly, this could be paid content. This is the kind of stuff I share with clients. Well, I do some teaching in my one-on-one client work, but a lot of this, the one-on-one work, is helping them implement. And so just want to preface this with, if you want support in this area, if you want to work towards mental and emotional well-being so that you can thrive as a dancer, do reach out. This is really best done with the support of someone who can walk you through that process. But I'm going to give you the tools today and the awareness to work through this yourself, okay? So let's get into it. Real quick, before we get into the bulk of this video, I do want to do a follow-up Q&A video where I respond to specific questions around how to deal with the emotions of certain situations. Like, this girl is being mean to me in ballet class. Like, how do you deal with it when you feel like a classmate's judging you or something? Or how do you deal with the emotions of a teacher giving a very critical comment? Things like that. So feel free to send your questions down below, and I would love to make a separate video responding to the questions. Enjoy the rest of the video. Let's start with, first, what are 3 benefits of emotional health and well-being as a dancer? I want to sell it to you first, because this is something we really should be taking seriously. It's amazing how we can feel as dancers, like, you know what my problem really is? I don't have good enough feet. That's my problem. But it's amazing how when I dive into this stuff with clients, it's not about the feet. It's not about how that other dancer is better than you. It's a lot of times about how you feel about yourself. And I'm going to emphasize the word feel. That is why emotional health and well-being and helping dancers establish that is a huge part of my individual coaching process. And it's why I emphasize it so much on Instagram, when I speak to groups, and YouTube videos. So again, that's why I'm really diving just straight into this topic in the video, because I so deeply want the dancers of the world to know about how important this is and what you can be doing about it. So let's talk about the quick benefits of emotional health. When you have it, how is your life different? Okay, and I'll be sharing a few points from my personal experience. For me, building emotional well-being, or I'll say a healthy relationship with my emotions, has genuinely allowed me to be consistently present and calm in my life. Why? Because I no longer feel the need to numb or distract myself or avoid certain thoughts or feelings that are going on within me. I no longer am scared of feeling what I'm feeling. I'm not scared anymore of exploring where certain thoughts are coming from for fear of what I'll find. I'm not afraid of my emotions anymore because I don't fear that they're going to control me or make me, out of control. I don't fear that anymore. And because I don't fear that, I don't need to numb or distract. And because of that, I feel present and calm and just safe within myself. That is not to be underestimated. That is so powerful. Am I saying this like I don't feel the need to numb or distract? And is that coming from a place of, oh, well, Kirsten, you don't know my life. It sounds like your life is easy. Listen, I'm not here to tell you I've had the hardest life ever, but there have been some very profound experiences of grief that I've had in my life, even recently. And for me to tell you that I haven't had to numb or distract through that, and in fact, working through those things and allowing myself to grieve and to feel has actually led me to thrive, like I really mean that. And it is so powerful to feel present and calm and like I don't need to fear or avoid anything within myself. The second thing is I feel so much more free to feel joy and excitement and fun and hope and all these really powerful, pleasant emotions. I feel free to feel them so much more powerfully. Like there's something about opening yourself up to allowing yourself to feel the spectrum of human emotions that then allows you to unlock greater levels of the feelings we all want to feel. Like we all want to feel joy, we want to feel excitement, we want to feel peace and all these things. But a lot of times what I've noticed in my personal journey is I really, for years of my life, I wanted to just make sure I felt positive. And I was very attached to feeling positive. Okay, that was allowed, that was good. But because I was like, ooh, negative emotions, that's bad. I can't feel those. Ooh, I don't have time for that. I don't want to look at that. It numbed how much I could feel the positive emotions. I'll tell you why later in this video I do this when I say positive and negative. I have feelings about those labels. When we build emotional health, we feel free to experience the spectrum of human emotions. And by doing so, by having that freedom, you can also feel the pleasant emotions even more powerfully. And that's what I call thriving. The third benefit that I've noticed is I feel so much less reactive to different things, like maybe a text that seems stressful or casting disappointments or whatever. I still feel emotions in response to those things, but I don't instantly feel like I spiral into this whole thing of, oh, that means I'm bad. That means I'm not going anywhere in life. I failed. You know, I used to just go straight into those negative interpretations. And now I feel so much more able to notice the feelings that come up and just let it be the feeling that I experience instead of that means blah, 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 and yeah, my life isn't going well. You know, the interpretations aren't so intense and they don't have power over me like they used to. So I feel free to just notice and then respond to the situation the way I want to. I feel capable of being objective and seeing circumstances more as they are rather than interpreting them as life's out to get me. This is a horrible day. Oh no, this is so bad. You know, I'm able to just kind of notice things as they are. I'm definitely, you guys, definitely not perfect in this. I would be wary of anyone who's like, yeah, oh my god, like I never have a negative interpretation. No, I definitely do. But it's just amazing how the interpretations are even things I can notice and I don't instantly buy into them as the whole truth. And I'd like to just say this has really not always been my experience. One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about talking about this, you guys, is because I used to be what I call emotionally constipated, all right? It's truly by the grace of God that I'm where I am and I'm doing the work that I'm doing, because I used to feel like I am not an empathetic person. I used to be so shut off from my emotions that I felt like an actual robot. I felt just constantly on this train towards achievement, and achievement is everything in life, and I don't have time for feelings, and feelings mean you're weak. And like I was so, I call it emotionally constipated because I didn't realize how many emotional experiences I just shoved down in my life. And I thought I was strong for like conquering the feelings and pushing them down effectively. But guess what? And we're about to talk about the 5 signs of a lack of emotional health. I have exhibited all of these at one point, and that is why I'm so passionate about talking about this, because I used to find so much of a sense of like glory or pride in I don't cry because I used to have a teacher. I was literally in an environment for 2 years where it was made extremely clear verbally that you are not allowed to cry, that is completely unprofessional. But in my young mind, I interpreted that statement around maybe the studio isn't the place to cry, which you know, how many times have we cried in a studio? I know I faced the wall and cried many times. I interpreted that as crying is bad, crying is weak, crying is something babies do. And so then it kind of turned into I literally couldn't even cry within the safety of my own home for actually years. Years. I would like be able to shed one tear and it would dry up. So I just share all that. Maybe it's relatable for you. Maybe you haven't gone to those depths before, but I just feel like that is kind of the epitome of what ballet culture preaches. That's why I talk about this stuff, because that is not thriving, my friends. Don't let anyone tell you that that is like the golden standard of how we should relate to our emotions, because let me tell you, I tried to live out the golden standard. It doesn't work. Okay, let's get into the 5 signs of a lack of emotional health. Number 1, you are scared to explore your thoughts and feelings for fear of what you'll find in there. Okay. And maybe even for fear that once you explore them, you'll be so overwhelmed by emotion that you'll be out of control. I hear that a lot from clients. Like, I'm scared to explore these things because I don't want to open something up that, then I open the floodgate of emotions and then I'm totally out of control and I can't recover. I hear that. And to be honest, sometimes at the beginning of developing a healthier relationship with your emotions, you might experience more intense, unpleasant emotions that feel like they persist. However, it is not that way forever. Emotions are chemical reactions within the body, and when we suppress them, when we don't actually allow them to flow through us, and by suppression, I mean like ignoring, distracting, numbing, judging yourself for having unpleasant emotions, or putting shame on yourself for having unpleasant emotions. Like, I shouldn't feel that, and then so you push it down. That doesn't just go away. It goes somewhere. It's like stored within your body, okay? And so when we just keep doing that, yeah, it's kind of like when you start to open up, it's often not as bad as you think it will be. That's been my experience with myself and with clients. But yes, you might experience like the effect of the floodgates opening. However, it does not last, okay? So that is a sign. If you are really fixating on the fear of like, oh no, if I look at that, I'm afraid of what I'll find, or I'm afraid of the floodgates opening. If that's a thought that's causing you to continue to avoid, numb, suppress, then that is a big sign of a lack of emotional health. The second sign is that maybe you're like I used to be. Most of the time, you're really good at managing your emotional state. Much like, I can give myself a pep talk and kind of let things go. And most of the time, you kind of experience the emotions within a certain range. Like, you feel positive, you feel happy, you feel that stuff, and then, you feel like kind of sad or kind of disappointed sometimes, but the emotions stay within this range. And then every once in a while, the emotions get super explosive. I mean, more in this direction. Like maybe you feel out of control anger, like your emotional reaction is disproportionate to the situation that you're in. And that's normal. I'm definitely not promoting this perfectionistic idea of emotions where we always feel what we feel and we never have explosive moments. Sometimes explosive, unpleasant emotions, that are really, really powerful, they are coming up in proportion to something that's happening in your life. And so absolutely, there is no problem with that. That's understandable, and that's healthy, that's normal, okay? But if you feel like most of the time you're kind of just like pushing down a certain level of emotions, just plugging through, going through your life, and then all of a sudden there's just this buildup that has to release. That used to be me. That might be a sign that just in your day-to-day life, maybe there's not such a healthy connection with your emotions where you're allowing for healthy patterns of release and processing so that eventually this explosion has to happen for you to go forward. Number 3, I already kind of mentioned this one, but if you notice you are consistently experiencing unpleasant emotions that seem disproportionately intense compared to the situation that you're in, that might mean that maybe there's some grieving that you have needed to do in your life, but you didn't complete the grieving process, or there is something that's bothering you, or there is an emotional weight you're carrying with you that you haven't really processed. Now, I say if you're consistently experiencing that, then that's a sign of maybe you could work towards more emotional health. It's very normal for everyone to experience that at one point, and that is just an opportunity to explore, like, that bother me so much? It's not necessarily a bad thing, and we'll get into the steps of how to deal with that. But if that's a consistent experience with you, maybe that's a sign that you could work towards a healthier relationship with your emotions. Number 4 is a simple one. I already kind of mentioned this. You numb or distract or suppress instead of feeling. Like maybe your first instinct is to always go to your phone when you feel some unpleasant emotions coming up, or to say, I'm fine, or just to zone out and watch Netflix, or just to work harder to try to make yourself feel better by achieving more. If you're doing things to distract or fix rather than face, then that's not necessarily the healthiest thing. And sign number 5, of course, this isn't an exhaustive list, but I think this list can kind of sum up generally some signs that I've seen in my 4 years of coaching dancers individually and in my 28 years of being a human myself. Number 5 is that you judge yourself or shame yourself for feeling negative emotions, and you interpret them as bad or something that you shouldn't feel, or maybe there's an interpretation that what a strong person does is they don't feel these things, and what a weak person does is they cry. So if you're judging yourself for feeling unpleasant emotions, and I'll talk in a moment about why I call them unpleasant emotions as much as I can instead of negative. If you are doing that and then prioritizing only feeling positive emotions as much as possible, and like that's the goal, and you're very rigid about that, then that's also a sign that maybe your relationship with your emotions isn't working for you. Okay, so what are the 4 steps that we can take to have a healthier relationship with our emotions? And this is really a process that you can use generally to explore overall like your relationship with your emotions in general, but I'd say more specifically this does apply to how you can actually work through emotions when they do come up. Step number 1 is to remove shame or judgment from emotions. Remove labels from them, honestly. There aren't good emotions and bad emotions. Every single one of the emotions that human beings are designed to feel are there for a reason. They serve a purpose. What are some of those purposes? Emotions are a form of intelligence. They help you to make sense of your experience and to understand how to respond appropriately. Another thing, purpose for emotions is, I like to call them care instructions from the body. They are signals from your body to help you understand what your needs are that maybe aren't being met. They help you to understand if something in your life needs to practically change for you to thrive, or also if there's a way of thinking that's not serving you right now. These are all some different purposes that emotions have, and in step 1 it's really all about embracing the purpose of them and doing so in order to release shame or judgment. And what shame and judgment can look like is, I know I shouldn't feel that, or you instantly try to logic your way out of the emotion instead of noticing it and feeling it. Or even worse than judging the emotion, you experience shame, shame is I am bad instead of I am experiencing something bad or I did something bad. Shame is all about that, like what it means about you. And so if you are interpreting like, I shouldn't feel that, and this means that I'm weak, or I'm not doing well enough, or I am a failure, whatever it is, then it's really important to explore how you can neutralize the meaning of emotions, or even start to build a positive interpretation of them so that you can accept and embrace them and just allow them to be there. Step number 2 is to name the specific emotion or emotions that you are experiencing. And what can be so helpful is you can just look up online a list of emotions and look at how many hundreds of words there are to describe all the different things that humans can feel. Part of the process that I take clients through in order to help them have emotional well-being is to also develop literacy with the names for different emotions. So because when we can name what we're feeling, we can actually understand it. We can know what to do with it a lot better. But a lot of times what is more normal in culture is to be like, I feel bad. I feel bad about myself. Things like that. But it's like, hold on. What is bad? Like, what is that emotion? I feel insecure. I feel sensitive. I feel small. Like, what is that? And so Put an actual name to the emotion or emotions that you are experiencing so that you can look at it for what it is. And this leads into step number 3. So once we name the emotion, what this does is it gives us the opportunity to take on step number 3, which is awareness of the emotion, and you're allowing it to be there. So step number 3 is allowing the emotion to be present. Now, this can work whether you are in the moment, like available to process it or not. Even if you are in the middle of, like, you are about to go on stage and you are feeling fear, if we just take the step to notice, I am feeling fear, even instead of saying I'm scared. It's a very helpful diffusion technique to notice I am experiencing fear. So it helps you acknowledge to yourself, yes, you are experiencing that, but it's an experience that you as a human are having. It's not who you are. It's not something that needs to define your whole experience. Even if you're in the middle of that situation, just allowing yourself to notice, I feel scared, and just name that. That can actually help you to develop the neutrality to move forward and perform the way you want to, focus on what you want and what you're doing. But even when you do have space, and this is kind of a sub point, acknowledge and define spaces for yourself throughout your day or throughout your week that are specifically there to help you have space to process an emotion. I'm going to continue to talk more about what processing looks like, because I know that can be a vague term or idea. But it is really important to notice, yes, not every moment throughout your day is going to be the moment to like work through the emotion. But that doesn't mean the emotion needs to be shoved away. You can develop the relationship with your emotions where you notice it, you name it, you allow it to be there, and you coexist with it. You still are able to dance. That, my friends, is such an empowering thing, to know that you can feel something, coexist with it. It can be there, and you can still move throughout your day the way you want to. You can still, most of the time, take the action that you want to take. And even more powerfully, you can do that by not shoving it away. When we tell ourselves, oh, I couldn't feel that nervous and deliver my best performance, what you're doing is you're creating conditions. That condition is kind of a false dichotomy a lot of the time. What if you allowed the nervousness to be there and performed the way you wanted to? And that might seem like, how does that actually work? Here's how it works. Instead of creating this snowball effect with the emotions where it's like, oh, I feel nervous. Nervousness is bad. Nervousness messes up my ability to perform. Oh no. And then we not only feel nervous, but we feel scared about being nervous. And then it feels like the nervousness and the fear have such a gripping power over you that then it's like overwhelming and you're like, oh, I need to get rid of this as soon as possible. But what would happen if you noticed, I feel nervous, and that's all it was? You just noticed, I feel nervous. You notice the feeling in your body. You're just noticing it. You're like, okay, I feel it. And then you just allow yourself to dance with the nervousness. Honestly, it is incredible how much that diffuses the nervousness already. So what step number 3 is all about is by having allowance and acceptance, just allowing the emotion to be what it is instead of piling more onto it to where it does actually become unmanageable. And part of step number 3 as well is you can always do that in any moment, but then also do set aside some time, maybe in your journaling time at night, or just thinking about life when you drink coffee in the morning. Do allow yourself to not only notice it, but then let's go into step 4. In those more defined spaces that you create for yourself, and it could honestly take 5 minutes. It doesn't have to take an hour. For me, these days, I can work through, well, not maybe totally work through it, but I can feel a sense of resolve in just a few minutes. Sometimes it takes longer than that, but I just want to say, like, you don't have to set aside a whole day to feel all the feelings in the world. You can just take a few minutes to do step number 4, which is asking yourself, where might this emotion be coming from? What is it trying to tell me? What can I learn from it? Any of those 3 questions can be super helpful for just exploring the root. And what is so powerful about step number 4 is you are being able to access the purpose of the emotion. I heard this recently from a therapist. So this hasn't been fact checked. I just heard it from someone who is a licensed counselor. They said that emotions, since they are a chemical reaction within the body, tend to last about 90 seconds, and that's it. And then beyond that, sometimes we just dwell on it further. Sometimes we choose to keep recreating the emotion in our bodies by dwelling on the thought or by, revisiting it constantly. And I thought that was a really interesting idea to just notice. Let's say, for example, in the casting is something that you wanted something different. So maybe you feel disappointment. Maybe all that you need in step number 4 is to notice the disappointment and to accept, okay, well, I understandably felt disappointed. I wanted something different, and this is what I have. Okay. And then you just kind of let the emotion pass through. Okay. You allow yourself to feel it. Maybe what you need instead is, it's one of the 3 things. It's like you either just notice and feel, and that's all. You just let the wave pass through you. Sometimes what you need is a perspective shift. You need to think about it differently. Maybe shift your expectations for yourself. Maybe what needs to shift is your standard of what good means, what success means for you. Or do you actually need to take action and change something in your life? Sometimes that's a valid outcome. So you get to ask yourself, what do I need to learn from this? What is the emotion wanting to tell me? So those are the 4 simple steps to actually working through your emotions when they come up. What you can do to kind of, like I said, provide space for yourself is journal. You can talk to someone. You can just take some quiet time to just notice the thoughts that are coming up and notice what you're feeling and just be kind of a witness to the experience. I like to do this in a calm spot or outside. I go on walks. That really, really helps me. So those are some practical kind of spaces that you can create for yourself to work through these things to make it easier. Okay, dancers, this has been a doozy of a video. I really would love to know what you think about it, and I would really appreciate it as well if you share it with some of your dancer friends, or if you're a teacher, share this with your students. I really think that this piece of education is so important. It's personally changed my life, and I believe in it so much that, I go through this and a lot of other things too in my coaching program, the Confident Dancer coaching program. But I find it so valuable. I don't think it should be locked up behind a paywall. I really think everyone needs to know this. So I am excited for all of you who are going to put this into action. Please do let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and also I'll insert a clip as well at the beginning of the video to talk about this, but I would love to do a follow-up Q&A video where I give responses to specific questions. Send me your questions that are specific to a certain context around emotions and like how to handle the emotions of a specific moment. So I would love to acknowledge those and respond to them in a specific video. So yeah, send me your questions in the comments below or on Instagram. You can direct message me. Kirsten_the Confident Dancer is my Instagram account. So thank you for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe so you see next week's video, and I'll see you then.